This episode of the PC Perspective Podcast is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/PCPER and enter code PCPER. Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 380, being recorded on December 23rd, 2015. I'm Ryan Schrow.
I'm Allyn Malmontano.
I'm Morry Titleman.
I'm Sebastian Peak.
We're recording early. If you're listening to this after the fact, you don't care. But actually, that probably means you'll get the podcast like almost a whole day early as well, because Ken's going to stay after this and actually do the editing and all that stuff.
Yeah. Maybe we could just restream it out again at the correct time.
That's true. We could set up a scheduled output of a live stream at 10.
We could do that.
Have it started at like 10:17
You assume
or so.
we'll be finished by 10.
That's true.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, we should be. We'll be finished by then. So welcome everybody. I'm back. Alan's back. Guess you were back last week, kinda.
I was.
Jeremy's out. Josh is out. Replacing them, we've got Sebastian and Morry. And it is 2 days till Christmas as we record this, so everybody's trying to get crap done and get away. We're trying to schedule CES meetings. Trying. I don't know. Yeah, it's a huge pain in the ass. But we still had a decent amount of stuff to talk about. But in case you want to watch us stream live, so this is a perfect example, right? Where we normally record the show at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday nights. What is that? Somebody muting and unmuting themselves? That's probably what it was. But today we had a little bit of a change because everybody that was on the West Coast is they're out, they're gone, they're sick, they're with family, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
We thought, okay, I've got shopping to start after the podcast tonight. So I was like, okay.
This is when Ryan wants to do his Christmas
This is when I do my Christmas shopping. It's late at night. Either now, it's got to be today because Christmas Eve night, some of the places are actually closed. Whatever.
Yeah.
Why, I don't know.
So the worst night possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's move it up to 8 o'clock. So you wouldn't have known that unless you signed up for our PC Perspective Live mailing list, which you can get to at pcper.com/subscribe. You go there, you get this list, or you get this page rather, that asks for your name and your email address. That's pretty much it. And then you get notifications about when we do live streams. So like we gave away an Alienware laptop a week or 2 weeks ago. Yeah. When Rivet was out here, Rivet Networks was out here to show killer networking and do some demos and talk about technology and talk about networking in general. We gave away a laptop. You guys maybe missed that because you weren't a part of this live stream. We gave you a whole day notice for that one. So pcper.com/subscribe to sign up for that list and do so immediately or else I'll be pissed. And I don't want to be mad. It's the holidays.
Yeah. Let's
move on. Articles, reviews, things of that nature. Morry, you posted a review of the ASUS, what am I looking at here? X99E WS USB 3.1. I'm guessing that designation, as we look at it here at the title, tells me that this motherboard existed previous to having USB 3.1 integrated on it. Is that right?
Correct, yep. Yeah, ASUS, basically when USB 3.1 started hitting, they refreshed almost their entire line with USB 3.1 controllers. Most of the time they're using AS Media controllers, but some vendors actually use Intel controllers too. Intel allows USB 3.1 to go over its Thunderbolt bus. So, but in this case, for this motherboard, and for most of the ASUS motherboards, they use the AS Media chipset. The WS designation means it's part of the Workstation line. This is basically their flagship in the Workstation line. I mean, it is a little pricey.
Yeah, how much is it? Like this is like $1,000, right?
Well, no, it's about a little under $550.
A little under $550, so $549.
That's not $1,000.
No, I was being facetious. By placing that level on it, people are like, "Oh man, $549 sounds like a discount, right?" Yeah. So that's what I was doing.
Okay.
Anyway, continue.
So this motherboard is based on the X99 chipset. It supports the Haswell E processors. It has an integrated PLX chip on it, which is what there's a chipset to the left of the CPU socket. That's what's covering under that heatsink there. That's also why it has so many PCIe X16 slots on it. It will support, I believe it supports full X16 over 4 slots.
That's a lot.
Here. Yeah, it's well. I mean, the PLX chip really gives it some. Let me just check on that real quick.
By 16 link.
By 16 4-way it'll do because of the with either a 40 lane or the 28 lane CPU, and that's because of the PLX chip. Most times on the X99 boards, you're limited to X8 at most over 4-way SLI,
Gotcha.
and that's with a 40-lane CPU because they don't add an extra PLX chip. That's one of the reasons why the board costs so much, because the PLX chip adds quite a bit of money to the price of the board.
Gotcha. Now I'm looking at the picture here supplied at the back panel. That are those so the regular blue is USB 3 and those kind of tealish blue are USB 3.1, is that right?
Correct. Yep. The teal are AS Media 3.1. They are Type A slots. This board doesn't have any Type C slots. Type C slots are the reversible, smaller slots.
Gotcha.
As far as the USB slots on the back, they're split between the AS Media controller and the Intel controller. They're not all controlled by the Intel controller.
Gotcha.
So they also have a few what's those eSATA ports on the back. Those red ports.
You don't see those very often anymore.
No. They have their USB BIOS flashback, which allows you to basically recover the board if you mess up the board and to the point where the BIOS doesn't operate. You can actually recover the board by pressing a button. You load the BIOS onto a USB stick and hook it up to the specialized port.
What's the file folder button looking thing right here?
The top one, you mean? Oh, okay. That one is for the Q code. That one will actually print out Q code debug stuff to a connected USB stick as well in a text file, I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Right. So what in this board? Because it's a workstation class board, meaning that it has a specific feature set. Like the huge amount of PCIe connectivity is part of that. The dual gigabit Intel Ethernet, I guess, is a part of that. What kind of features really stand out to you on this product? Right, like is it the PCI integration? Because I mean, Jesus, look at all those slots. Like that's a lot of slots.
Yeah, I mean this board, the workstation board, is usually meant for graphic artists, people who are doing heavy rendering, number crunching, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That need a lot of video. It also has, it has 2 SATA Express slots on it and 8 SATA ports on it. So I mean, it's got a huge amount of SATA connections, and it also has an M.2 slot on it. So you have a lot of options with this board. It doesn't have Wi-Fi, but that really depends on you if that matters or not.
Yeah.
But both of the NICs are Intel based NICs, so they are both super fast and very stable, perform very well.
Dual gigabit Intel on a workstation board is probably the version that can do the multi-link.
Yeah. Will. They do support multi-link teaming, that kind of thing. They also have the dual dual ATX 12 volt pins to supply, connectors to supply plenty of power to the CPU.
Looks like there's 2 USB 3.1 front panel connectors, or are those USB 3?
No, those are USB 3. They don't have. I haven't seen any USB 3.1 headers.
Gotcha.
Usually they're just slots on the board. Probably once the new Intel chipsets are coming out, we may start seeing that once they suck the USB 3.1 ports into the chipset itself. But that's pure speculation on my part. We'll know better next spring.
So would you consider this board to be kind of equivalent to, would this be the highest end board ASUS makes for this, or would you go with like one of the ROG series boards? Right. It seems like, to me, if I were going to spend $550 on a motherboard, you're either looking at this or you're looking at the ROG. Which one is that? The Rampage?
Yep. The Rampage 5.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, like the added capability of all these PCI Express slots, the PLX chip, and all that stuff seems like more my style for a $500 board than the extras you get with the ROG. What do you think on that, Morry?
again, it depends on what you're going to use the board for. If you want to go for looks and style, you're probably going to go more for the ROG board. The ROG board also has that nice OC panel thing. If you want, if you just want the sheer power and be able to, use all of the PCIe slots at full speed, then you go for this. But if you're gaming, there's really, people have done tests again and again on it, and there's really no difference between X8 and X16 at this point. Games just don't use the bandwidth,
Agreed.
And video cards aren't able to push the bandwidth.
What about the extra overclocking, like front panel thing aside? Like, how does this board overclock? Like, are all the kind of options the same as like a Rampage 5?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I had some hiccups with the overclocking, but I also had some problems with the. I think my Corsair cooler, my H100, is finally going biting the dust on me. So that was more the limiting factor than the board was. I mean, it was able to still push it up to 4.4, which my chip is rated. Usually goes up to 4.5. So, but it still ran the memory. I think it still ran the 3200 memory fine and everything else. So. Really, I mean, there's not much. Even we for the whole X99 series, we've not really seen much differences in overclocking capabilities. ASUS really has stepped up their game with the Z170s and the X99s as far as craftsmanship and design, and putting not skimping on CPU related features. So
it looks like Amazon had this listed at $511.
It's not bad for an X99 board.
I mean, it's up there. I mean,
now it's more though. Now it's about $550.
It's kind of as loaded as you can load one of those boards. Though,
I mean, if you look at this picture of this board, there's really no PCB space left
Yeah.
untouched, right? 7 full-length PCI Express slots, 8 DIMM slots, a huge processor socket, right? I mean, you've got, like you said, you've got the 2 8-pin power connectors back there.
Yeah.
Is there M.2? Oh, right here.
Yeah, that's
There's
right there.
M.2, yeah. The M.2 placement is actually really nice. Being, to the lower left of the chipset cooler, it's out of the way unless you're using that fourth PCIe slot, which most people won't be doing.
Right.
So.
It should still tuck under even a large graphics
easily,
card.
yeah. I'm just saying that if you actually want to get to it, and the CMOS battery, as everyone always makes fun of me about,
Look at that. Look at that placement.
So.
Way up there.
Yeah.
I think Morry's finally affected change in the industry. They knew it was coming, so they put it up in the most accessible spot.
That is ideal battery placement.
It is.
Nothing's going to block that.
Sebastian, how many processor sockets could you fit on this? Or
Well, I mean, just count the PCIe's. Those you can use those just the same.
You know, 7-way.
CPU riser cards.
Yeah.
you'd have to take the coolers off of them and just get down to the bare PCB.
It would be water cooled.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Immersion water cooling.
I have my own modified system.
Immersion. That's right. The ice.
The ice cube
ice
system.
cubes. Yeah, it's ice
It's
phase.
hooked up to my
Space change.
refrigerator's ice cube maker. And
It just constantly drops a new one like every
water
30
blocks.
seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see that. All right. I'm a
Hey,
fan.
Morry, real quick. Do either the ROG or this workstation boards the i7?
All right, you broke
up a little bit there.
Anybody
Try
else,
again.
but you broke up
Say that
on
again.
Okay. Do either this X99E workstation board or the ROG boards also accept Xeon processors, or are these strictly just for the consumer processors?
If they are the 2011 V3 form factor, then they should work fine. It's really more of a socket configuration rather than the family. I mean, it's they just have to conform to the socket the socket make. Yeah.
And does this board support ECC memory?
That I don't know. I mean, I don't have any ECC memory to test with.
I'm looking on their
so
site and it just shows non-ECC unbuffered, so it might not.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if it did. I mean, ECC memory is kind of something that they've really relegated to server-specific boards. Boards coming from a Supermicro, those kind of places.
Yeah, the ASUS workstation boards have historically supported the Xeons that are pin compatible with like whatever that X series, especially the X series.
We'll talk about in a little bit another motherboard that goes a little bit a couple motherboards that actually go beyond that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if I one thing to say about the ECC memory, I'm actually looking at the specs right now.
Yeah.
It looks like, I didn't test this, but it looks like if you're using the board in conjunction with the Xeon E5 1600, it will support ECC memory. So
Okay.
it's got to be DDR4, of course, but
Right.
it looks like it'll support it.
Cool. Move on to a couple of other things here. I posted my review of the Surface Book and the Surface Pro 4, Microsoft's latest laptop/tablets. I feel like I've talked about these a lot throughout, like building up, because I got them in initially, and then I had 30 plus days with these before sending them back. I actually really, really like both of these machines. So here are some we're looking at photos of the Surface Pro 4. The hinge on the Surface Pro 4 continues to impress me. If you have the table space for it, if you're trying to work with it on your lap, it's actually kind of a pain in the ass to use, because if that part,
your
the
knees
kickstand
need to
part,
be far enough out,
right? Which means you have to have the keyboard close to you. Now, the keyboard is still an add-on; it's an extra. I don't know of any. I can't think of a good use case why you would ever buy the Surface Pro 4 tablet and not want the keyboard trackpad with it. Because Windows 10 is still not fantastic in its tablet form factor. It's okay, it's fine, it works. But to me, you're wasting most of the functionality of the device if you refuse to get a keyboard and touchpad with it. Surface Book 4, a completely unique thing. Obviously, if you look at that doesn't look like anything we've ever really tested or seen before. It worked exceedingly well. We had a couple of crashes on removal of the devices where you're supposed to hold a button down on the keyboard and then you wait for a software notification that says, hey, you can remove the tablet, and you disconnect it.
Yep.
A couple times I would hold the button down, the button would turn green, the light on the button would turn green, but I didn't get the software notification yet, and I just said, it's probably fine. And I pulled it off. And
then you hot removed the...
yeah, you get a nice blue screen.
Did the equivalent of yanking your video card out of your PC?
Essentially, that's what you did, right? Because it was still probably utilizing the NVIDIA GPU on the screen side there. I use a Surface Pen on it. I'm not an artist. I'm not Scott. I don't use it for that type of stuff. But for note-taking is actually really, really nice. I would love to have one of these integrated into kind of my everyday workflow for those purposes. Because what I do here is I do a lot of testing, taking down notes. What was my test configuration? What settings was I running, etc. And I still use like a pad of paper and a pen that I keep in my backpack with me all the time.
Like a journalist.
Right? And having that, the benefit of having that kind of in a digital format that then gets uploaded to OneNote.
Luddite.
Yeah, I know. I used a paper calendar for way too long as well, but it worked really well. I think the magnetic kind of attachment system is pretty good. You do have to worry about it maybe coming off in your backpack. Right?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Especially if you put the pen down.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right, it's going to put the weight on it and maybe shift and dislodge the magnetic side on it. Keyboards were surprisingly good. Even so, on the Surface Pro 4, you get this, what they call it, the TypePad 4 Surface Pro 4. I forget what it's called, but it's surprisingly good key throw, surprisingly good touchpad. I would absolutely put it on par with the keyboard and touchpad experience with the Dell XPS 13, which says a lot. Actually, the keyboard on the Surface Book was way better, though. It had larger keys, more key travel. The trackpad was bigger. They're both glass, but they both felt great. Had really solid click to them. The keyboard was fantastic. If you're deciding if you type a lot, you write a lot. I think you'll like the keyboard on the Surface Book as much as any other laptop keyboard I've ever used. Here's that ready to detach notification. If you try to pull the tablet off of the device before the notification comes to the right-hand screen, that will be poor. It will be a bad result. Don't do that.
And it's not supposed to let you, right? Like it's supposed
yes,
to
I
lock
agree.
in.
Right. So like when you hold the button down on the keyboard,
some kind of software thing is supposed to happen.
A software thing is supposed to it's supposed to solve the software process of dislodging it.
Plus a
moving
mechanical.
the mechanical part out of the dislodge the spring essentially or whatever it is, and then give you the notification. What's that?
Muscle wire.
Yeah, they call it muscle wire.
That's a thing outside of
muscle
Microsoft.
wire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But something was going wrong in that order, right?
It's
I could hear it
interesting.
dislodge.
Yeah.
Like I could hear the little thing, the little electrical thing of the wire being moved out of the way, but the notification would come up, and I would kind of wait, and I'd go, it's probably fine.
It's weird. You always hear the lock disengage before the notification pops up, so you'd think they'd try to do the software side before disengaging the lock.
You would think they would want the software to be done before disengaging. Yeah.
Maybe there's some like they have to actually detach it before they can switch over or something like that.
I don't know. So that caused me a couple of hiccups, but I will say, the Surface Book is the one that has the option. You can get the NVIDIA discrete GPU in the base.
Yep.
It's a very modest GPU. What is it? 384 CUDA cores, 950 megahertz clock speed, 5 gigahertz GDDR5 memory, 64-bit memory bus. Like, it's a very modest, kind of on par with the GeForce 940M series GPU. 1 gig of frame buffer. It improved gaming. It probably doubled 70 to 100% improvement in gaming performance if that's something you're interested in. Obviously, it's for a specific type of games, not for Grand Theft Auto and things like that. But more mainstream titles, you want to play like BioShock Infinite, you want to play Skyrim, those types of things are definitely improved with this. You get improvements in any Photoshop, Premiere, anything that uses OpenCL will see an improvement with this as well. But it's kind of a pricey upgrade to add it on there, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. From terms of connectivity and ports, as somebody who has lamented the reduction of ports on laptops, Surface devices are not really going to help you much there. The Surface Pro 4 has 1 USB port. The Surface Book has 2. The Surface Book, if you detach it from the base, has 0 USB ports. Both USB ports are in the base. They both have mini display port. They both have memory card readers. The Book has a full size. The Pro 4 has mini or micro SD, rather. So differences there. Battery life was actually really good on the Surface Pro 4. What's interesting here is Surface Pro 4 is rated at having a 38 watt hour battery, relatively small when it comes to. I think my XPS 13 has a 52 watt hour battery, but it was able to get 5.78 hours in our kind of fairly strenuous Wi-Fi battery test. But if you look above that, the Surface Book, it got 9.23 hours of battery life, like a huge increase. Now, it does that because it has 69 watt hours of battery, 18 in the tablet and 51 in the keyboard dock. So your battery life on just the tablet, if you would ever want to use it for that purpose, is going to be relatively low. But overall, it is very, very, very good as a laptop combination in totality, I guess, for battery life. So that makes its portability good. Both these devices are fairly light, fairly portable. The Surface Pro 4 folds flatter. It's smaller. It's lighter. The Surface Book is definitely heavier than the Pro 4, a little bit bulkier to carry around, but they're not MacBook Airs. Essentially, I guess is what I'm saying. They're not svelte and sleek in that way. Performance-wise, Skylake is good. I don't know what else to say. Skylake performs well. You're looking at 20 to 25 to 30% faster in benchmarks if you compare it to like a Core i5 of a Broadwell processor. So if you look at this, handbrake performance, you're looking at both Skylake processors are about 130 frames per second. The Dell XPS 13 is like 100 frames per second. So that's a pretty sizable increase, again, because you're getting longer battery life, you're getting more efficient processor, and you happen to get better performance as well. And you can see the single-threaded performance gap there, and then you can see the multi-threaded performance gap there as well. So check out the full review if you want to really study those benchmarks further. In terms of gaming, I tested both the Surface Pro 4 and the Surface Book. Obviously, the Surface Book had a lot better run-through, right? So here's Rocket League running at 64 frames per second on the Book, 46 frames per second on the Pro 4. BioShock Infinite, 47 frames per second versus 83. It's a pretty sizable jump. And then in Skyrim, I couldn't disable. This was one of the interesting things, right? So it's using an NVIDIA GPU, but it's not using the regular GeForce driver. It's using like kind of a customized one, because you don't have access to all the settings you would normally have.
So like an OEM-ish kind of.
Yeah. So what I'm used to be able to do is you have to go into the control panel and disable VSync.
Yep.
For Skyrim to run uncapped.
And
even after you
this?
enable the INI file or modify the INI file. And you couldn't do that on the Surface Book. I could not find a way to go into any kind of NVIDIA or Intel control panel settings and adjust VSync.
It seems like something you should be able to adjust regardless, right? They should fix that. In other words, they should add that.
I don't know. Like I don't think they will. Let's put it this way, because it's a custom part. It's not like a branded part from NVIDIA. They're not selling it to other people.
But it's not like
Microsoft is taking it and integrating it in one system in a very specific way.
Right. I'm not looking for the whole GFE thing, all that. I'm just looking for like VSync on off. Like that should be in the driver. Like this would be like the only thing that doesn't have VSync on off setting on it. Like
I don't know if the Intel integrated graphics
I think you could disable
that
VSync.
I haven't looked in the NVIDIA integrated graphic control panel very often.
Oh, you mean the Intel one?
Yeah, right. I'm saying if it didn't have the integrated or the discrete GPU on it, would you even be able to do it then? That aside, so there's little quirks like that. Like you don't have the full driver, and also that means you don't know when you're going to get driver updates. Because you can't just go to GeForce.com and download the latest driver, or download GFE and get the latest driver.
It'll only be from Microsoft, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be through Microsoft, pushed through Windows Update.
Yep.
And you hope that they're,
they should be better about that specific set of hardware.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
But I do worry that driver will just become kind of long in the tooth and outdated, and in a lower performance platform, like lower performance GPU, where optimization is more important than like if you're running a 980 Ti. Something to keep an eye on. Pricing. Here's a table that looks at all this stuff. They're expensive. You can get the Surface Book as high as $3,199.
Good Lord.
If you get the Core i7 processor, 16 gigs of memory, 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, Intel plus NVIDIA discrete GPU, $3,199. That's a lot of dollars. For comparison, the Surface Pro 4 has a Core i7, 16 gig, 1 terabyte integrated option, $26.99. So it's $500 less expensive for not having the NVIDIA GPU, slightly smaller screen, smaller battery life, that type of stuff. If you want to go entry level, you can go down on the Surface Book. You can get, I kind of like the Surface Book option because the minimum is a Core i5 with 8 gigs of memory, 128 gig in NVMe SSD, which is not really big, but it's $14.99. Still pretty steep.
Yeah.
The Surface Pro 4 goes down to $8.99 if you want a Core M3 iteration, right? So not a Core i5. It only has 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. It's $8.99. If I were to buy one of either of these, I would probably go with the second column here. The Core i5, 8 gigs, 256 gig SSD. That's $16.99 for the Surface Book and $12.99 for the Surface Pro 4. So you're paying $400 more for the Surface Book than the Surface Pro 4. Now you've got to add in, what did we say the price of that was, Ken? The touchpad is like $160 bucks. Yeah. So now you're going from $13 to $14.70.
The type cover.
The type cover,
yeah.
That's way
so
too much
you're talking about
money.
200. Let's say it's $230 difference between the Book and the Surface Pro 4. And you're getting bigger screen, longer battery life. That's pretty much what you're looking at there.
They're just both way overpriced.
Yeah.
If you compare it to something like the Yoga 900, which is what, $1,200 bucks?
That's what I'm using here.
For the
like
i7 6500, 256 gig NVMe SSD, 8 gigs of RAM. It's what, $1,200?
Yeah,
it's $1,200 for that?
Yeah.
It's a big price difference.
High res display, like a similar resolution display.
It is.
Not the same aspect ratio, but
nope, 16:9. So
the Surface products are built better, but you're paying a lot.
That's what I'll say.
That.
Like the keyboard on this is not nearly as good as the keyboard on either of those Surface devices. I would
even
say.
On the type cover.
Yeah, I would say that.
Even if you start to compare the Surface Book pricing to a MacBook Pro Retina, it's out of whack, and the Pro Retina is the 25-watt CPUs, and not the 15-watt CPUs.
Yeah, I like to see what the battery life is on those two. Honestly, for me, I was fairly close to. So I bought these units for review. They weren't sent to me by Microsoft. I was kind of. If I were to keep one, I would have kept the Surface Book. Right? It was expensive. The one that I had was $18.99.
Yep.
The Core i5, 8 gigs, 256 NVIDIA GPU.
But it did have the better graphics and.
Yeah, it had better graphics. It had the extended battery life. It was a bigger screen. It was
even better
nice
keyboard than the type cover.
Yeah. It had the ability to flip it into a tablet, like a writing mode, use the pen, do all that kind of stuff. But that's a good $600 more than I paid for my XPS 13 last year.
Right.
And then I was like, I'm fine. Had I not bought this last year and had still been on an older, X230 or something Lenovo,
It still kills me
I
that
might have
that
done
came
it.
out last year, and we're still looking at stuff that has come out now. Now look at the size of the bezel on this Yoga.
Yeah, but it has a
right?
webcam that doesn't look up your nose.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
No,
webcams
There are
that look up your
sacrifices to
nose.
everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my take on the Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book. I think they're really, really good devices. I think maybe part of it might be Microsoft not wanting to make the prices really good to piss off Lenovo
Absolutely
and
has to be
Dell
what it is.
and some of those guys. Like,
guess.
they want to prove that, hey, look, these are the form factors everybody likes. Do this, dummy. Right?
Oh.
Like, that's the kind of thing that I would imagine them doing. Like,
So it's more like a proof of concept you can buy.
kinda, but I mean,
Kinda.
they're gonna sell it, they're gonna service it, they're gonna
The
Solid.
Surface Pro 3 sold pretty damn well.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know a
it
lot of
did.
people
Yeah.
that bought the Surface Pro 3.
But that
actually.
didn't seem as steeply priced as these do.
I don't think the pricing changed, really.
I don't know. Yeah, I still think
I don't
it was,
know.
I still think it was high.
I could be
if
wrong on that.
If you look at these two, the Surface Pro 4 is obviously the
It's the more reasonable.
more reasonable
Yeah.
one, right? And the book is just new enough, different enough for them to be like, I don't know, $400.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and kind of
Yeah, next year when they chop off 300, it will seem
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, we'll see.
It'll be like a big change.
Well, Alan's onto something though, saying that they do price them high because I mean, Mary Jo Foley and Paul Thurrott both have said that Microsoft wants OEMs to pick them up and pick up their designs and make their own Surface Books. It just hasn't happened. That's a tough market.
Yep.
it is. Anybody, any other thoughts on this? We'll move on. All right. Let's. So anyway, check out that review. It was an interesting write-up because it was like after I had used it for 30 days or so.
Yep.
It wasn't like here I had it for a week. Let's see what it does. And I think that changes a lot about things like notebooks and phones. Up next, we have a quick little video. AMD sent us some hardware. They sponsored a system build rather, on video, I guess I should say. In conjunction with Star Wars Battlefront, right? So that's an AMD title, I guess, one they're using for promo as marketing.
Yep.
So they sent us a video card, a motherboard, a processor, a monitor. Those are the four things they sent over. They said,
FreeSync, I assume.
yeah, FreeSync monitor.
Cool.
They basically said, we want to, here's the AMD componentry,
Mm-hmm.
build a system around this,
Make a video about it.
yeah, make a video about it.
Tell people about it,
And
yeah.
to be honest with you, we haven't built an AMD system in a while.
That's true.
And I thought, okay, fine, let's do this. So, and again, then we were doing it kind of in, hey, Star Wars is pretty popular right now. Hey, right?
Let's do that.
Hey, you guys know this guy, R2-D2? You ever heard of him? No? So you can see the whole list of componentry here. FX8370, Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo, the world's most popular cooler, I think, ever.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's like a $29 air cooler.
We don't have one lying around.
It's in that case. But it's like, because we built this system,
Yep.
that I feel like it's been around forever,
Yeah.
but it's just
If it's a good cooler, if it ain't broke.
it keeps being good for $30, right? Like it's
Yeah.
hard for people to
It
complain.
keeps being good. No one's changed the heatsink mount in 5 years. So
Right.
it
That's
just
also
continues
true,
to
yeah.
work.
Are you listening, Intel? Don't change your damn heatsink. Or AMD.
The MSI 990 FXA gaming motherboard, which is actually it's $137, pretty low cost. It has USB 3.1 support on it, right? So that's kind of neat. 8 gigs of memory. Actually, for some reason, I didn't put the 8 gigs in there. That was stupid in the table. A Sapphire Nitro Radeon R9 380X, $266. A 240 gig SanDisk Ultra 2 SSD, not the fastest SSD, but if we're trying to make it budget for $79.
It's a good budget SSD.
It's hard to find one much better than that. Corsair Carbide $300 case we had here, a Seasonic power supply for about $70, and then the monitor was the AOC G2460PF. I'd never used this monitor before.
Yeah,
it's a
well.
1080p, 144 hertz TN FreeSync panel,
Okay.
essentially. But now that you have low frame rate compensation as part of the Radeon Crimson driver,
Yep.
right? Suddenly, those
What was the
monitors
number
that have
on that?
fairly high
Was it
40,
40?
44
I think it
to
was-
144 or 40 to
I
144,
think it was 40 something, low 40s.
like
maybe,
42 to
But it doesn't
44.
matter.
So now that you've got low frame rate compensation on there, it's like okay, some of these older monitors, maybe not older, but like previous generation, like TN
Yep.
panels that have FreeSync support, this was only $250 for that monitor. That's pretty good.
That's That's amazing for a variable. Isn't that like the lowest cost we've seen for a variable refresh panel?
Probably.
I don't know if we had a
Nixius was like $330, I think.
Yeah, the Nixius cost more than that.
Yeah,
like,
so for $259, you can get that monitor.
That's great for it's TN.
It's TN, right? Like there's that TN versus IPS. We're always going to choose IPS over it, but it looked okay. It was fine. Like again, if you're stationary and you don't have moving around a lot, it's fine. Total component cost was $924. Add in the monitor above that, so we're looking at $1180.
That's funny.
So.
That's a whole system build for what like variable refresh panels initially launched at, basically for the price.
So
right. And that's with the variable refresh panel.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
A whole system build that I play any 1080p game max.
Yeah, and that's what, like, so for me, I played some Battlefront on it yesterday. Was it yesterday, day before yesterday?
Yeah.
I did some more today. And I was sitting here, the system was sitting on this table. I was, had pulled a chair up and was playing on it. It played great. I had the case door off. It was pretty much silent.
Right? I didn't hear it.
And it's like, yeah, this is fantastic. Like, it just works, right? And we talk all the time about, if I were to build a system, would it be AMD or Intel? And, everybody seems to make the same choice off the bat. But you can kind of prove that, like, if this is the route you want to go, like the FX8370, this processor is completely capable of doing all that stuff. It's an 8-core, 4-module part, 4 gigahertz clock speed. Can run through any gaming stuff. If you want to do transcoding, photo editing, video editing, like, it's going to have the threads to do that. If you got to do productivity and school stuff, like, obviously it has no issue with that.
Sure.
It runs at a fairly high TDP, but this Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo has no issues with it. Like I said, I said dirt quiet. It is
dirt cheap cool.
Dirt cheap and quiet.
Yeah.
Right? So it's easy to see that there. Cases are very, whatever you like to look at all day, I guess. But for $68, it just works. Like, it's nice, and the build quality is pretty good. And there's our video card, and that's the monitor, right? And so then we have this one benchmark here that I added in today that I just, it's a 1080p monitor, set the image quality settings in the game to ultra, their highest settings.
What are you comparing it to?
Just nothing. This is the top set is a single player on Tatooine, the wave-based mission.
Oh, different maps on
Battlefront. And then the second set is the multiplayer on Hoth. I forget what the name of the game type is there, but it was one that was in the beta.
Those are plenty high refresh rates.
Well, it's like we're averaging 74, 76, which is actually a perfect way to demonstrate variable refresh as well, right? Like, because you would be in between steppings there, and you would see horizontal tearing or whatever, and so this just was smooth. It was great, whatever.
Awesome.
It just worked. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm surprised about it, but it had been a while since I was just like, all right, let's just build a system and play a game on it. Like, we always seem to have some specific goal, or we have some, like, let's make it the smallest system we can build, or let's make it the most powerful system we can build, or let's use water cooling. And this was like, I don't know, here's $1,200 worth of parts. That seems like a pretty reasonable budget
good performance
with a monitor for somebody like just starting out.
Yep.
Build a system that someone might actually build.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. As opposed to, the $550 motherboard that Morry brought us earlier that very few people are going to be utilizing just because of the cost.
Yeah.
So check that out. I think we're going to arrange a giveaway for that monitor, just because we don't want to put it on a shelf, essentially.
We got a lot of monitors.
We built a shelf
and it's full, so now we
immediately filled the shelf with monitors.
I know. Such is life.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, see, people in the chat room are saying we should give it away, but
what?
We're like, some of the components in that system build are things that we have here that we use all the time.
Oh,
the
yeah,
power supply, the SSD, the cooler, we need those here. Otherwise, I would give away the whole system. But check that out. We did a little video on it, and there you go. You can get a list of all the components and pricing and links to Amazon if you want to build something like that for yourself. The options are there. So let's see, what do we got here as he stalls? We're into the ad break here.
We are.
We're into our holiday ad break, which means it's time to thank everybody's favorite mattress sponsor, Casper.
I have a story that can lead into this, actually.
Is it going to be an okay one?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
So I'm in Tampa, and there's not enough beds in the house. And and my wife and I needed to go to a house along with a bunch of other family, and there just was not enough beds. And here's the problem. It's not a Casper story because we needed one immediately.
Right.
But it's a horrible experience at, like... I literally was just needed to go into a mattress place and just pick, like, the cheapest mattress and just be in and out.
Yeah.
And this old lady could not figure out how to use the computer system at the place. Like, it was the owner's, like, mom or something running the joint. And, like, 45 minutes later, she's on the phone with her son.
Like, dealing with retail sucks.
It was a nightmare, and it was just, like... Yeah, all I was thinking the whole time was pretty much like, why couldn't I just order this online, and like I should have just done it that way and just slept on the floor for like a day or two or something, because it was horrible. It was just so bad, and I still had to wait like to the next day to get it.
Yeah, it's not like you. Yeah,
because they had to deliver it.
Right.
So yeah, it was just.
Well, here's how you fix all that, Allyn. You go to Casper. Casper's an online retailer of mattresses, premium mattresses, fraction of the cost. They're revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing it on to the consumer, which again would have been another benefit for you.
Yep.
A Casper mattress is obsessively engineered mattress. It's at a fair price. It uses two technologies, latex and memory foam, to come together for better nights and brighter days. It's a comfortable mattress that has just the right amount of sink and a bounce. It provides long-lasting comfort and support. That's actually the mattress I use. The mattress that me and my wife and sometimes my child and sometimes 3 dogs use
are all on the mattress.
Is all on a Casper king size mattress. It's a king.
King?
It's a king. Yeah, I mean at that point,
big mattress.
It's not big enough.
Came in a pretty small, relatively small box.
Comes in a very small box. Yeah. Not very small box, but it comes in a much smaller than king-size mattress box.
Yep.
And then it, poof, at the appropriate time, when you wave your hand, / cut open the box.
Not while it's in the mail truck.
Yeah. It's actually great. You can buy it easily online. It's completely risk-free. You can try sleeping on it for 100 days. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to like go and test it in a showroom and have that old lady like look at you and stare at you while you're sitting there. That seems a little uncomfortable.
An old lady.
Or any lady for that matter. Or a man. I don't want anybody staring at me while I'm trying to test out a mattress in a brightly lit showroom. But so you can get 100 days on this. If you don't like it, they will take it back. They'll come collect it. They'll either, I think they donate it to like a local shelter type of thing.
It's cool.
They're all made in the USA. And let's see, you can actually get, so Casper mattresses are $500 for a twin, $950 for a king. Compared to industry averages, that's actually a pretty outstanding
that is a deal.
And you can save an additional $50 as one of PC Perspective's audience members by going to casper.com/PCPER and entering the promo code PCPER. That's casper.com/PCPER and use promo code PCPER. And we thank Casper for their support of the PC Perspective podcast and never have a crappy mattress retail buying experience again. You know what's funny about this? I will say, months ago when Casper first started advertising with this, my mom was kind of like, okay, sure. But now she's seen like Casper ads on like TV, and now she thinks
it's the best thing.
Well, now she thinks we're awesome because they advertised with us first before she saw them on TV.
Good job, Casper.
Good job, Casper, and thank you again for your support. Let's get into some news items. ECS announces a LIVA mini PC with an Intel Core processor. Sebastian, are you ready to add to the stack?
Yeah. I mean, I only had 3, so this will be a nice even number. They already had a model that was their core model. It had one of those Broadwell M, the 5Y10C processors in it. I'm looking at Newegg right now, and those are $400. The LIVA typically has been like this $150 mini PC. There wasn't a whole lot to their announcement, so they didn't say what it would be. I'm assuming 6th gen. I think it was like a Skylake of some kind, so hopefully it's more powerful than the Core M.
Gotcha.
But and it'll be less expensive, I would assume. So we'll see what's coming at CES.
Oh, we will.
Oh, we will see.
The existing LIVA, like the X2 that I reviewed, it was a Braswell, so it's a very low power, very low performance part.
Yeah, we need to move beyond that crap, I think. HTC Vive headset controllers allegedly leaked out. This is what they look like, I guess. It's interesting because about 6-8 months ago, I would have thought that this quarter would have been the shitstorm of virtual reality headsets all being released.
It was always supposed to be Q1.
Vive was supposed to be this year. And
they said in limited quantities.
Yeah, no, but like 8 months ago, it was going to be released. And then they kind of updated and said it was going to be limited quantities this year. And I don't know if Oculus, when they said Q1 of next year, but that's what that is now. And now there's rumors of the Vive being pushed back to Q2 of next year. So this is all getting pushed back a little bit. But you can see the headset there. It looks like a block of Swiss cheese to me, a little. And these are what the controllers will look like. I got to use a prototype of this a couple of weeks ago. It was actually pretty impressive. Now, what I'm very curious about, and here's what a goofy person looks like. Darn it. What a goofy person looks like when they're using it. Let me close that window out. And I'm sure I looked at least as bad as that while using it. The problem I have with those controllers is you have to have a room kind of dedicated to this, not just a space. Like when you use Microsoft Kinect, you could like move your couch out of the way, move your table out of the way. Now you seem to have to dedicate an entire room to it with like two cameras, two different angles. That way they're kind of cross-looking at you. And I just don't know if people are going to have space for this, or the desire to create a room dedicated with this amount of space for it. And I know I was listening to the Giant Bombcast. They were talking about, are they going to release it as just the headset first and then sell the controllers and the cameras as like an add-on after the fact? Will they launch it just as a package out front? Like, are they going to expect people to want to use that in that way right out of the bat?
If you think about the people who are going to adopt VR in the beginning while they're still figuring out all like the positional tracking problems, it's going to be the people who will dedicate a room to it, essentially. It's crazy people.
Yeah,
who will spend probably $500 on a headset, need a $500 GPU to run it.
I think the crazy people are the ones that would be willing to buy the headset, period. Right?
Exactly.
And you'd have to be even beyond that to dedicate.
I'm not sure there are separate sets of people.
I think they are.
At this point.
Because I would be willing to buy a headset.
You don't count.
But I don't think I would be willing to buy a setup where I have to have a room to use it. Because
you don't count,
even in this office, we don't have space.
You don't count because it's significantly easier for you to get set up with this because you don't have to build a gaming computer. You don't have to put $1,500 into a gaming computer to run it. It's way less of an investment for you. So
say the headset is $300. Say the controllers and cameras are $300 more.
Sure. That seems a bit off, but
I don't know if there are many people that are willing to like build a computer and buy a headset and buy the stuff. I think there's going to be more people who already have a computer and are willing to be like, oh, here's a $300 accessory.
Yeah.
As opposed to here's a $600 accessory and, oh, by the way, you need 240 square feet of empty space so you don't kick your shin into the coffee table.
But like, you also don't need that. Like, you can just use it as a head-mounted display and VR stuff like we've seen.
But the Vive in particular has just been, more of its demos have been more spatial as opposed to Oculus's demos who are just kind of rolling into being spatial. I don't know. Sebastian, are you going to clean out your basement to make it a 3D virtual reality den?
The amount of space I have in my basement is basically like pathways between
artificial walls
of stuff.
It's between artificial walls of computer case boxes.
Yes.
That's all I have. I mean, most of my home is actually made from enclosure boxes at this point.
So, I mean, would you? So let me ask. I'll ask Sebastian and Morry this question. Then, would you be willing to buy a VR headset? Yes, no, and then, are you interested in the larger space aspect of VR headset, like having to have a dedicated room with a camera set up, or dedicated space at least?
No.
Morry?
No, well, it depends for me. I would definitely not have the room for dedicated space. I mean, I have a 1,500 square foot house, so I'm lucky to have my own office.
Right.
Morry,
but
real quick.
Yeah.
My house is 780 square feet.
That's smaller.
It's smaller than my last apartment was.
Well, you beat me. Great. Anyway, I really think it depends on how well Microsoft's thing does. God, I'm blanking on the name.
HoloLens.
Yeah, the HoloLens. Yeah, because I mean, if Microsoft's HoloLens works even halfway as good as they've demoed it to work, then this HTC thing will be no more than a comment in history. I mean, it's that the HoloLens just looks like it could be.
Yeah, I think the HoloLens is
that would work.
A significant step behind. Like, it's going to be way further away than either the Oculus or the Vive headset.
It is better suited to a small house because it's designed. Like HoloLens is meant to just incorporate into the space.
Right,
that you have.
but it depends on what your game or application wants to do.
That's true.
You may have no interest in carrying, like, if you're doing a Skyrim in VR, you don't give a crap what, like, oh, is that
What's
a couch?
this coffee
Great.
table?
Well, I'm going to turn this couch into a stone walkway that you can step over. Like,
but the beautiful thing about an AR headset is, in theory, they could black out the rest of it, and you'd have that experience.
Yeah, but then you have the same issue, is what I'm saying. Like,
no, you don't.
If you black out an AR headset,
if you're playing Skyrim or something with a normal controller, you don't have that issue.
Right, but you have the same issue. You have the same. If you black out an AR headset, you have a VR headset.
Yeah,
like the exact same thing as the Vive and the Oculus.
But the idea is you don't always have to have it blacked out, which gives it way more possibility to work in different environments.
Yeah. I just don't think. I think for gaming purposes, the AR side will be fairly minimal.
I think you like. I think this whole thing about I've seen in other places, not just you, about needing a dedicated room might be a bit exaggerated because, like, why wouldn't your office work? You have
because you have a desk and you have chairs and you have things.
But
like,
we don't
people
know,
live in rooms.
We don't know that needs to be a completely empty room.
But also, though, Ken, you shouldn't need to have multiple cameras set up at specific areas in a room. If I wanted a VR headset, I'd want to be able to use my keyboard and mouse for controller. I mean, I really don't care about handheld controller, but I don't want to have to set up cameras and all that stuff. I want, to put on the mask and it has head tracking or whatever in it. It can do it through software, hardware, whatever.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to have some thing tracking me.
Both of these devices do that. The two camera tracking is when you want to be able to stand up, rotate, move your hands in the air, have extra controllers. Like, it is a step beyond just VR that we know now. It is interactive, trying to simulate interactivity as well. So, I mean, both the Vive and the Oculus will do that. It's just, I think, in my experience, the demos that I have seen is the really, really cool stuff occurs when you implement those two camera simulation, the controllers, those types of things. So, I don't know.
It's way too early to tell.
I guess.
Like, we need to see games to be able to tell if any of this matters.
We'll see. So anyway, what was the story? The pictures leaked.
Don't step on my VR dreams.
Yeah, well, they're dead.
No.
Let's talk about some motherboards. So somebody in the chat just mentioned it. Both ASUS and MSI, right? Is that the other one?
Yes.
Released E3... wrong way. E3 processor... E3 motherboards... Motherboards that use the C236 chipset to support Xeon E3 processors.
The ASUS actually doesn't use the 236, uses the 232, which I thought was odd.
So, why? Why are we doing this?
Why not?
I don't know.
Okay,
no,
so
I asked first.
I didn't even really understand that these existed, but when I was looking into this story, there are LGA 1151 Xeons now.
Right.
These E3 1200 series V5 Xeons that are not expensive. So if you compare, and they're Skylake, they're 6th gen. If you compare a quad-core hyper-threaded, which initially when I posted this I was wrong, the $215 V5 Xeon is just a quad-core, there's no hyper-threading, but you go up to $275, you're getting a 3 gigahertz, 4-core, 8-thread Skylake part. Not unlocked, but these go all the way up to, I think, 3.8 gigahertz with boost. Okay. On the top end part, but they're still significantly less than going out and buying a 6700K. So if you were to buy one of these boards, which is supposed to be about $175 in the US when they come out here, roughly, then you can buy a under $300 CPU, get all the cores of a i7, maybe do some base clock overclocking. I don't know if these are set up for that. I would assume they are.
So is this a motherboard basically that can support Xeons as well as Core, Pentium, and Celeron?
Yes.
Are you sure about that?
Well,
the CPU support says Xeon E3 1200 V5 and 6th Gen Core M Pentium and Celeron processors.
So the way I understand this whole thing is that for the past few generations, people have been buying the top of the line E3, or the equivalent to the top of the line i7 version of the E3, which doesn't have integrated graphics, and you can sometimes find cheaper, and they have been using them on consumer level motherboards.
Okay.
However, as far as I understand, with the V5 Xeons, Intel has blocked out Xeon support from the Z series chipset, so you can no longer do this. So the motherboard manufacturers are coming back and answering to the people who want to buy these Xeons, don't care about integrated graphics, can get them a little cheaper.
That sounds like a pain in the ass to have a separate SKU of motherboard to support this probably fairly small subset of people that are interested in buying
it depends on how big of a difference swapping out the chipset is. Like, is that a pretty direct swap at this point? It might be. Like, not a whole lot of board re-engineering. You have to develop a different BIOS.
Looks like this ASUS one says, it's... Let's see. What kind of feature support change is there?
I didn't think it was that great. If you look at it electrically, it's only, I think, a by 16 and a by 4 for the PCI Express slots.
Yeah, that's normal. That's basically Z170, right? You got a by 16 from the CPU.
You usually have 2 by 8s in SLI mode.
Well, you could 1 by 16 or 2 by 8s. Yeah, so this looks like it's only doing 116.
Yeah, it's only electrically by 4.
Okay.
And then the chipset, the C232 only has 10, or is it 10 lanes? So the 236 is actually a full 20 lanes. So you're dealing with the sort of budget part.
Gotcha. So that's the ASUS one on the C232. And if you look at this MSI over here, this is the C236. I gotcha.
And MSIs were definitely geared more towards professional use. They made a big push for the fact that they support ECC, that they use the 236 chipset, so they have more PCI Express lanes.
USB 3.1 Gen 2.
And that's by an
actual
USB
USB 3.1
controller.
Right.
It's just like as you talk about things like, I don't know, not having the highest end features and not as many PCIe lanes, I feel like the type of people who buy these Xeon processors are shaving every dollar off, just care about having a processor, a GPU, and a by 16 slot, the most expensive GPU they can afford, and just go for it.
I wonder have they mentioned pricing on either of these boards, guys?
The Asus, they did release pricing in the UK, which was like £118, so about $175.
It's a heavy board.
I have not been able to find the MSI listed anywhere.
What was that in dollars again?
$175.
It's not bad.
But it's not. It's like if you're a budget person.
So you can get a Z170 board for $100.
But what's the Z170 Asus Gaming Pro 5 motherboard run?
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
Because they're probably mostly equivalent feature-wise.
I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
The one other thing that I could not understand, the MSI specifically calls out Core i3, not just Core support. And then on their site, under their specs, they specifically call out Core i3 again. So I don't understand why it wouldn't support i5 or i7, but they specifically state Core i3, Pentium, and Celeron.
Interesting.
So the
power delivery or
the Z170 Pro gaming board is $170.
Okay.
Again, I don't know exactly what the feature breakdown is, but I imagine they're similar.
Sounds like
SKUs.
something for us to ask at CES. So what's with these motherboards?
How about we ask Intel why they arbitrarily locked out Xeons from working on Z series?
Well, I think we know the answer to that. Because dollars.
Well, also, the Xeon boards probably don't have any overclocking capabilities at all. That could be why Intel doesn't want you running Xeons on regular motherboards, because they don't want you overclocking them. Typically, Xeons don't have the graphics in them, but usually they have a little more cache for some more oomph. They're not going to run as fast, but they have more cache. So,
but you can still overclock Xeons on their workstation boards, though.
Sometimes
on some of them.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll find out. So that's
like that board Morry was just talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Like that board has overclocking features. You put a Xeon on it, they don't just evaporate. Like the settings are still there.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can probably base clock.
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah, I don't know if Xeon processors they're probably multiplier locked.
Probably.
Yeah.
But you can base clock, Yeah.
And like this stuff changes from generation to generation, so it's difficult to remember. Like overclocking on Xeons is kind of a mess.
But and most people aren't going to overclock a Xeon. If you're buying a Xeon, you're going to run it as a high-end workstation or a server board, and you don't want to overclock any of that stuff for stability reasons.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, but a lot of people were just buying Xeons for gaming purposes because they were less expensive and lacked integrated graphics and stuff like that. Right?
If you can't find the 6700K in stock, the Xeon equivalent is usually in stock. So it's like, well,
that's true.
You know.
That was definitely an issue for a long time.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Vulkan API Slips in 2016. Scott wrote this up. The Kronos Group announced on last Friday that the Vulkan API will not ship until next year. They're expecting it to launch in 2015, and Scott actually had a briefing on it, and they said that 2015 was an under-promise, over-deliver estimate, so kind of backfired on them there. This is an interesting kind of development. And I don't think they really go into why this is happening. You know, Scott has a couple of theories in here. I will tell you a rumor that I've heard from various people throughout the industry is that AMD might be trying to take back some of the intellectual property that they released into Vulkan through Mantle. And that kind of legalese stuff might be what's holding up Vulkan. Which would be an interesting development if that's the case. But I don't know any of that for sure. But that's a rumor I've been hearing from multiple locations now, is that AMD might have gone, hey, maybe we gave you too much stuff and we want some of that back.
I mean, if you look at the fact that we don't really have game engine supporting DX12 yet and shipping games, like the Kronos Group had less time from when they started on Vulkan. They were working from the Mantle stuff, but like maybe it's just not ready. They
did, but the whole idea was like Mantle was like pretty much done and ready to go, and they just had to do a little bit of work.
But Mantle wasn't cross-platform. Maybe it's just not ready.
I mean, clearly it's not. But maybe it's not. My worry is that it is technically ready, but not business ready, which would be shitty for a open ecosystem, open source thing to do for it to happen to it. But again, I don't really know for sure. So, something else here, Samsung may be adding AMD to the list of customers. Josh's not here to talk to us about this. Jeremy wrote this up. AMD may use Samsung to produce at least some of their 14-nanometer chips in the coming year. The rumors also include Global Foundries as a source for APUs and GPUs. This is all obviously in relation to 14-nanometer FinFET, 16-nanometer FinFET at TSMC. Global Foundries has FinFET. Samsung has FinFET. Everybody trying to compete with Intel in that regard. And then Jeremy mentions here it could also help fund Samsung's development of 10-nanometer FinFET. But yes, everything will help fund Samsung's 10-nanometer FinFET development. It'd be interesting to see what happens in the GPU wars in 2016, where Samsung, TSMC, and Global Foundries all have very competitive foundry options for this node, and who is using who's using both, right? You look at what Apple did with the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. They kind of split across it, and maybe there was some good from that from a production standpoint, but maybe there was some bad from it in sort of variability aspect. So we'll see what happens in the GPU space with it in the coming year. But 2016 is going to be busy on GPU, guys. It's going to be the AMD and NVIDIA both are going to have a lot to say and to do this year. And then I think this is our last regular news story here. Shield Tablet K1. Now the NVIDIA Shield Tablet K1 now receiving Android 6.0 over-the-air updates. Marshmallow. I don't know how you pronounce it, but that's all I'm
Marshmallow.
I will say I am not. So we have a Shield tablet here, but we didn't get one that had the Shield Tablet K1 label. And my understanding of this, Ken, was that this is the same device, right?
I thought so.
It really is.
I have been scanning for updates to get Android 6.0 in the device, and it has not come through as of like an hour and a half ago.
This came up in their official thread on the NVIDIA forums, and one of the community members came on and said, because there was speculation going on throughout the thread that they weren't going to be upgrading the technically identical original Shield. NVIDIA came on and said, we absolutely are. That's coming up. It's getting Android M 6.0. So They just pushed it out to their new branded device first.
It's so weird.
Why would they do that? That's so dumb.
So that you go out and buy a new one. Come on.
A new one that won't explode because of battery.
Like, I think they should be so happy to have any customer using their tablet that they should just push the damn update. Like, and if anything, the people who bought it longer ago
care
more than somebody who's just now buying into it. Or in theory,
maybe
right?
Everyone who bought it early just leaves it sit on a shelf now, so they want to give it.
Nobody
to
would
people
do that.
Who haven't abandoned it.
Maybe
yet.
they know how often you've had the device on, and they're like, "Look, you don't care. You're just here to find all the bugs and stuff that's broken." NVIDIA lists Android 6.0 updates. Sebastian, what do they list here as new things for Android 6.0?
Just basically the stuff you get with Android, although they did have some of their own features on top of that they're adding as far as, what was it? It's like some just enhancements to the UI. It's technically their like software update 1.0 for the tablet K1. So they rolled in a few other things, but it is built on Android 6.0. So you get all of the Android 6.0 functionality.
Is the feature where you can pull internal storage in the SD card a 6.0 feature? Is that an NVIDIA feature?
And that's enabled on this.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was.
So it's an
NVIDIA
Android developing,
okay.
not an NVIDIA developed.
Finally.
Adoptable storage.
Finally.
Plus, you get Fallout Shelter and bonus lunchboxes.
Isn't Fallout Shelter free?
Yeah, but bonus lunchboxes, I said.
50 for the first 50,000.
The first 50,000 Shield Tablet K1 gamers can score 5 free lunchboxes.
The first 50,000 that upgrade their tablet OS?
I want to let you know also there are new wallpapers with this update. So that's something.
That is something.
Oh, shit.
Just in time for Christmas.
Indeed. All right, let's get into hardware software picks for this week as I lean over.
Oh, there it is.
Ken placed it very far away. I am picking the Sphero BB-8 remote controlled. Alan, what are you reading over there? Is it interesting? BB-8 wants to know.
He didn't roll over here and tell me anything. I'm surprised you're not wheeling that thing around on the table.
So during Twitch last week, I did. He sat on the table with me, but there's so much stuff on the table this week that I thought maybe I wouldn't.
Yeah. He'd probably just roll right off the table, too.
He did do that once. Last week. So BB-8 is a Sphero droid. What was the Sphero thing called?
Just Sphero?
It was just called Sphero.
It was just called a Sphero.
And it was just a ball with a
without a head.
with a weight in it, without a head on it.
Yeah.
That you could remote control from your phone or your Shield device and stuff. And this is a Star Wars branded version of that. And it has an app that you can control on your phone, and you can remote control it, or you can have it explore on its own, where it kind of does a not so great like Roomba representation where it kind of just walks around and
bumps into crap.
Bumps into stuff.
Yeah, because it doesn't have
an
actual sensor.
Doesn't
or
have a
anything.
bumper or anything. It just
like
when it stops, it goes, "Oh, there's a wall here." You can have it do cute emoticon. What would you call those? Emotes.
Sure.
Yeah. Through the app, it's a little bit odd because the sounds come out of your phone and not out of the droid itself.
Yep.
Because there's no speaker in it. It's fairly pricey. It's $150.
Yeah, but it is like the highest reviewed. Like people that have reviewed all of them have said that that's the best one.
Reviewed all of what? The Sphero things?
The different like BB-8 droids that are out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's fairly expensive. Several people have asked me, would you buy this for your kid? I'm like, nah. I mean, unless you, I don't know. I get the feeling kids might get bored of it. Yeah, you got cats or dogs. You want to piss them off.
The antennas look like they might not.
They're not functioning. I don't.
No, they don't look that.
Because
durable.
Also
the head can pop off.
The head is not.
Well, yeah,
the head is
that.
Completely.
If you're worried about the antennas breaking, you just roll it around without the head. I guess.
No.
It's already starting to
That's just a Sphero.
Stuff.
Yeah, I mean it collects dust.
It's like when you clean the wheels in your mouse.
Yep, it is exactly what it is. When you have the ball, when you have ball mouse, and you had to go and clean out the ball mouse.
Ball mouse, yes. Mice used to have balls in them.
Mouse with balls.
Yes.
Is what I'm saying.
I'm not that young.
So when they first came out, they were like the first round of them sold out pretty quick. But now it's listed here on Amazon. It's $149.95. Will not arrive before Christmas. Sorry, everybody. It's a neat little gadget. And what else? You can also they do like a little AR thing where if you hold your phone screen up to it in the camera, it sees it and it plays like a holographic message, and you can record your own messages. That's the base that you set it on to charge.
Micro USB.
Yep.
And it just charges.
Yeah, it uses wireless charging.
How long does it take?
I have no idea.
Can't be a very big battery.
Yeah, it can't be a very big battery. I've never had to run out of battery, but I haven't used it that much either. My dad was blown away that the technology is like that. It's like, and to me, this is like the most simplistic robot thing I could think of.
Was it because the head stays upright on top of the thing? That's
Kinda.
Yeah.
Kinda, just that, you
You
control that robot with your phone. My dad's 72 years old, to be fair. But so yeah.
Now I remember at QuakeCon 1 year, Sphero had the gigantic one that NVIDIA brought up.
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
It wasn't a BB-8, but it was just a giant ball.
BB-8 didn't exist then.
And, well, yeah.
It's like
and they were controlling it with the Shield
so
portable
they should just
device.
make a giant one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should.
They make a
For
giant
QuakeCon
BB-8.
this year. Maybe we'll make it happen.
Maybe.
Why not? Probably not. All right, so who's up next? Let me switch back here. We've got Allyn.
Moi.
Okay, what do you got for us?
So this is a pretty easy way to send files to basically from anything to anything.
Okay.
And that's including like PC to iPhone, PC to Android, Android to iOS. Like, doesn't really matter. Like,
Okay.
if it's something that you can get to on that device, chances are you can send it to any other device that can handle this same like app or program on your PC or whatnot. And in most cases, it's just a direct file transfer. Like, it doesn't even have to go bounce through a server as long as you're on the same network as the other device.
Okay.
You run the app on both devices, and then there's like a 6-digit kind of key code that it generates to like authorize that file, so it's just not going to whoever wants to grab it.
Right.
And it's supposedly like an encrypted transfer, like protected and everything. And
So what have you used this for?
you can just transfer anything. Just like you just need to get a file onto some other device easily and quickly. Like, and you don't want to use Dropbox or, you're trying to get it from somebody
You
else.
think this is the equivalent of what like the Apple
like
connection?
like the AirDrop thing?
Yeah.
Kinda.
But it uses the internet.
There's an extra step.
What? Uses the what?
What?
The internet?
AirDrop?
No.
This.
This.
This uses the internet, but the file
You're
doesn't
using
necessarily.
the HTTPs.
Well, yeah, but the file doesn't necessarily go through their server. Like, there's two ways it can go.
Okay. It can do...
It can do direct,
Okay.
like, point to point. So, I mean, it's one of those oddball things you want to keep in your back pocket for when you're like, man, I really need to get this file over to this other thing, and I can't, like, do
Yeah.
it because of whatever. That person doesn't have Dropbox or some other, if you're trying to get it to somebody else's device, right? I just need to get that file over there.
Here are the user cases. Hassle-free way to send all my baby pictures and videos to my mom without degrading the quality. Lawyer, confidential and secure way to share highly sensitive documents with my clients or colleagues. Student, sending class notes to my friends has never been easier. Journalist, now I can easily transfer my audio files from my phone to PC, or easy way to share my reports with my boss without the fear of someone stealing my work. Interesting.
journalist.
So you probably get like a voice
Yeah.
memo off of an iPhone without having to recompress it and without having to use iTunes, for example.
And I know
Right.
I hate using iTunes
See?
for it. Okay.
So,
is it free? What's it cost?
Yeah, it looks like it's free on, I think it's free on all the platforms.
How do they make money?
I'm not really sure.
Web 2.0.
But hey, it's,
That's not the point. The point is to get customers and
Yeah.
then
and
make money.
then make
gotta
some
figure-
business
yeah.
version of it,
Right.
and then they'll charge money on that.
And then they'll
True.
still lose money every quarter.
Yeah. And they'll still lose money. And
Hooray, internet.
yeah.
Just data harvesting. No big deal.
Yeah, that's probably it.
They are pretty clear on the website. They're like, look, if we have to pass a file through our server, the longest it will be available is 24 hours, and then it's gone.
Plenty of time for
So-
them to catalog everything.
Well, they're just like very clear about like, like they're like, we don't even want your file, so we'll try to make it go direct. But if for some reason that doesn't work, then
we're not storing your shit indefinitely.
yeah,
We don't even want it. I like that
yeah,
part of it.
I like it when a company has that kind of a thing.
I like it when they say that. We'll
Yep.
see if they do. Sebastian. No, wait. Morry.
All right, my pick was the Thermaltake Core X9 case.
Okay.
I don't actually have one with me. The thing, well, it's not that big actually. It's about the same size, height-wise, as the Corsair 540 Air. It's a little bit wider, and it's about 25 inches depth, so it's a lot deeper. The reason why I picked this, and I actually have one on order. It should be getting here tomorrow, depending on when Amazon decides to ship it.
Well, yeah.
But basically, I wanted a case that I could put all my crap in, and right now I'm running. Well, I mean, you guys have seen my case,
Yep.
you know, the various iterations.
That is huge. Or is that two of them?
That's two of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But this thing will house. You can put in like four 4x120 radiators in it. It'll host a EATX motherboard. A huge amount of drives. It's even got 5.25-inch device drive bays on top.
Are these 5.25? No, wait. These are 5.25-inch bays?
That's how big it is.
Yeah,
those are 5.25.
Yes, that's how big it is.
Holy shit!
Floppy bays.
And those top things there, the top cutouts in the top.
Yeah.
Those are 4x120 cutouts.
Those are 480s each?
Yes.
Oh my lord! And this is only $130.
Yes.
Scrap it, make it back in steel cost alone.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a really big case, but it was a really nice design. And you know, we'll see. I mean, I'm gonna be doing another build in this. I have all the components, so you guys will see this at QuakeCon.
So
of course.
So he's going to put wheels on that and drive it to QuakeCon.
No. Yeah, no, I'm not driving to QuakeCon.
Those are the optical drive bays right here. Holy moly!
That's a big case.
That's a big case.
And it goes way deep too. Like if those are optical.
Well, look at this shot right here shows the motherboard. Wait, what is it? Which one?
Yeah, there's one side profile with the motherboard in it.
Yeah.
And the motherboard's like just half of the front of the. Yeah, it's the back half.
The depth is 25-inch depth on that. So
the motherboard, it's like some of those micro ATX cases we have, except full size ATX.
Exactly.
EATX even.
Well, and they actually make a micro ATX and a mini ITX versions of this
I see
also.
that down here.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Is the
They're
case-
all huge cases.
Oh, so the case is still the same size, but
can
you
get
can put a micro.
No, it's
it's not the
smaller.
same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's smaller.
All right, just checking.
Well, see, like, look, see as I swap between these.
Yeah.
On the left,
optical
there,
bays
look at
become larger.
Yeah, look at the optical bay difference. That's impressive. Huh.
That's cool. How
To
much
have
is
it
that
in
thing?
white too. It's $129 for the black one.
Seriously?
Yeah.
For a beast of a case?
Yeah.
We'll see how it's built. My guess is doesn't have an overabundance of material.
It's true.
But Sebastian, you could probably live inside of a box for this case.
Yeah, I mean the Antec S10 was the biggest case box I've seen so far, but that's huge.
How many square feet is your house if you count the inside of boxes?
That's a question that I can't even answer.
Yeah, because that's cubic feet.
It's math that I
Versus
can't do
square
in my
feet.
mind.
Well,
All right, Sebastian, you're last.
I'm wearing my pick of the week right now.
It's that jacket.
Yep. It's this fleece from Eddie Bauer. No, actually, this is a Yamaha. These are the ATH-80-700X headphones from Audio Technica.
What do I think about the fact that they put the word audiophile in the title of their headphone?
they like SEO.
Well, the 8700 is a well-known audiophile headphone. This is the update to it. It has a little bit better bass performance and a better design overall. The 8700 was not the best build. These are really cool because they have a huge dynamic range and a huge frequency response. They're extremely sensitive, so almost anything will drive them. A phone drives them easily to very comfortable volumes. They don't have the best bass. This is not a bass head headphone. This is an open ear headphone that is extremely wide. Like the 700 was well known because the drivers are 53 millimeter drivers and they're actually angled kind of towards you like a speaker slightly.
Right.
They give a little bit of a wider kind of sound, like the sound stage they talk about.
So when I'm talking to you now, what do I sound like?
You sound like I'm listening to the direct connection to your microphone on like a soundboard.
I wanted it to sound like I was on a stage and you were.
That'd be like
to a
I could
lecture.
EQ that maybe.
Okay.
I don't know, but this is these headphones. This is like that $100 range, and there's a lot of debate about what the best headphone is for listening to music around that price.
Mm-hmm.
These have a retail of $200. They've been on Amazon for around $100, $110 for the longest time. I got these a year ago for like $95 on Amazon,
Yeah.
and it's nice because you can actually hear the outside world around you.
I hate that.
Like in the open ears. I don't like the closed ear.
I don't like open ears.
It's not like noise canceling.
Ken just doesn't
but
like
I
the
can't
world
hear
around
anything.
Yeah, I just want to be inside of my headphones.
To each their own. But these sound magnificent for any kind of acoustic or live classical jazz.
I will not attempt to disagree with you. You know significantly more about me than that. All I will point out is that putting the term audiophile in the title of your headphone insinuates that
I'm better than you?
It insinuates that like every other headphone that doesn't have it is not actually targeting people who really care about audio.
Well, okay, look at the market. Like Beats and Bose, these are headphones that target people who are interested in having like a really fun to listen to kind of experience. Like it's
audiophiles
really
don't like fun. They hate fun.
I hate fun.
They're masochists.
I want to hear how bad a recording really sounds to the point where I have to
definition of
turn it off.
audiophile is a person enthusiastic about high fidelity sound reproduction.
That sounds fun.
An audiophile values may be applied at all stages of music reproduction: the initial audio recording, the production process, and the playback, which is usually in a home setting.
And the expense of the cables.
Which is usually in a home setting alone.
Crying.
Audiophiles don't like fun, and they don't have friends.
I hate fun. I'm averse to it.
Yeah.
But I will say, though, one last point. These are huge headphones with this giant ring suspension, and then they actually sit on the top of your head with these two pads.
That's weird.
And they have these sort of velour cup pads, but they feel almost like they're not on. They're very light, and the suspension system does not really put any force against your ears. They just kind of just sit on your head. They're the most comfortable large headphones I've ever worn. But they're huge.
They're very large.
If you're looking for a last-minute Christmas gift that you can print out a picture of and put it in a box and say, these will be here soon.
Best headphones to take on an airplane. These are small. They're portable.
They
open.
Don't fold.
They're open, no.
No, don't take open headphones on an airplane.
Okay.
All I had my last flight was some earbuds, and I couldn't even hear them.
You got to shove them really far into your ear.
There was some blood coming out, so I stopped.
Go further. That could be dangerous. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap up tonight's episode of the PC Perspective Podcast. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, pcper.com/podcast. pcper.com/podcast. That's the URL to go to find all of our back episodes, how you can subscribe, how you can share. You can find the video versions. You can find links to RSS feeds. And pcper.com/live on Wednesday nights, usually at 10 p.m. Eastern. Today, we did it at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to get those updates on the go, or at home, I guess, just immediately. If you want to get those updates about when we're going to do live streams, go to pcper.com/subscribe and fill out that form there. That is going to be it for us, guys. We'll be here next week. We're going to do another one before we head out for CES. So maybe we'll try to do something interesting like CES predictions.
We usually do like the best items of the year.
Do we? Yeah,
that's true.
That sounds like a lot of work too.
Not really.
We'll figure it out. All right, we'll do something next week. We'll have a show of some kind, and we'll do it, I guess. So be prepared for that. That's it. That's all I got. We'll see you next time, guys. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Alan Mamatano.
I'm Morry Tattleman.
I'm Sebastian Peak.
Bye.